all the sports news is coming out of Alberta. We can bring in Arash Madani now to say Kevin in Edmonton's written in and says Connor McDavid will be out 2 to 3 weeks. And also in Calgary, the Stampeders largely cleaning house in a lot of ways. Defensive coordinator Brent Monson gone. Mark Killam, special teams coach, gone. Joanne Simpson, D-line coach, gone. Has people talking. And Arash broke the story. I think it was you who broke the story, Arash, on Saturday that Randy Ambrosie will be gone after the Grey Cup. So a lot of changes, my dude, this week.
Yeah, a lot of changes. And right off the bat, I'd fully expect Brent Monson to end up on the coaching staff of the Toronto Argonauts next season. I don't understand why. I guess when you decide you're going to run it all back with this senior consultant and head coach and GM, you got to make somebody the scapegoat, and they made the special teams coach and the DC and D-line coach expendable there. But yeah, the Ambrosie thing has been brewing for quite some time, Rod, and without getting too much into the weeds, there was a Board of Governors conversation, I'm told, about Ambrosie's future and a potential contract extension for him. And when it was the furthest thing from unanimous, that's when really the writing was on the wall, and what happened the way it did.
5-4 vote against keeping him. What went into that?
Well, I think there's been some discontent for a while now, Roddy, with the way things are being run at the league office under Ambrosie's stewardship. And really, if you want to peel back some layers, it goes back to 2020 and the fact that the league didn't play, and how Ambrosie approached that entire thing, hands off, wasn't really sinking his teeth into it. Just the absurd performance in front of the House Finance and Heritage Committee, asking for $150 million without a business plan, without consulting the players. And there's been a real kind of divide here between new ownership, new money, and old ownership and old money. And what I mean by that is Ambrosie's basically installed Amar Doman in BC, and now Larry Thompson in Edmonton, and Pierre-Carlo Pelado in Montreal. He's had their support. But for a while now, Larry Tannenbaum has publicly come out and expressed his dissatisfaction on how Ambrosie governs and goes about his business. I've been told for a long time Hamilton has shown a real displeasure. Winnipeg is not happy. So you have kind of 3 probably yays and 3 probably nays, and then in between have been these 3 other franchises. Where Sask, where Ottawa, where Calgary sits, I'm not quite sure, but ultimately the decision, that's where things have kind of stood on that matter.
Viewer Nelson wants to know who the early horses are as the next commissioner.
I'm not sure they even know yet, to be honest with you. I think this is something that this year at Grey Cup, the governors are going to get together. I don't think this was a decision made or a vote made in terms of, okay, let's get person A out of here because we have person B waiting in the wings, or we have a list of finalists that we have in mind right now, which is probably why Ambrosie is going to remain in the chair, into the new year, because they have to figure that out as they move forward. Now, we could throw some names around, but I don't think anybody had Jeffrey Orridge on the bingo card. I don't think anyone had Randy Ambrosie on the bingo card when they were putting in the last 2 commissioners of the league. So at this point in the game, it's just about figuring out what they want and what direction they want to go in, and then start looking at candidates.
Who had Mark Cohan? Who had Tom Wright? Who had Jeff Giles? Who had? God bless this league. It's going to be a lot of fun to talk about.
Well, I would say a lot of people had David Braley on because David Braley wanted his signature on the football.
I get it. Sure. Hey, one more on the CFL. This BC Lions story, fascinating. Big one Saturday in Sask. Vernon Adams has the ball. Who would have thought it? Not going to be Nathan Rourke. It's wild, man. The funnest time of the year is here, and BC's been like the biggest story outside Chad Kelly in the league.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, Rod, when I look at this week and next week in the CFL playoffs, with the 4 games coming up, to me, the most intriguing game leading into it is this weekend in Regina with BC and Saskatchewan because of the tentacles of this entire thing. I mean, on the Sask side, there's not a hotter team in the league, probably not a healthier team in the league coming into this playoff game than them. They're basically a Mother Nature wind gust or two away from hosting the West Final, but that didn't happen. But to me, on the BC side, Roddy, this becomes very intriguing. Because if the Lions lose this week, is Rick Campbell the next head coach of the Edmonton Elks? If the Lions win this week with Vernon Adams at quarterback, who is BC's starter week 1, opening day of 2025? I think these are really and who would have thought this would even be a conversation point 6 weeks ago? Who would have thought 4 weeks ago when they went into Montreal and beat the Alouettes, in their stadium, the defending Grey Cup champions, all of those things? Can you sell Nathan Rourke in that market right now after what's happened? I'm not sure. Do you move forward with Vernon Adams if he's starting to ball for you? That becomes a question. And if it all falls apart with Rourke, with all the provisions, is that the end of Rick Campbell in BC? I just think there are so many layers to this in the aftermath if BC wins, if BC loses.
And that's why, Jeff, the Stamps fan, it's being voted as the game of the week of the two.
I think it's the game of the playoffs.
Yeah, Kim in Calgary writes in, she says, I love Arash Madani. That makes 2 of us, Kim. We got about 3 minutes and 2 points.
You're the best.
What about me? Paul in Humboldt wants to know your take on Justin Jefferson's catch on the weekend, or in LA on Thursday.
It's just another one. Add it to the list. I mean, how many more can there be? Remember the Buffalo game a couple of years ago? What was it, November of 2022? He is the most electric dynamite igniter, I think, in professional sports today. Great question.
And the World Series, we got to talk about this. I'm loving it. Have you watched every pitch? Where are you on the World Series?
Well, I think that what we're watching here with Freddie Freeman is one of the most incredible things that we've witnessed in quite some time. Like, there's only been one other player in the history of the World Series who has hit home runs in the first 4 games. Going into last night, Roddy, how about this one? He had driven in as many runs himself as the Yankees had as a team through 3 games. Now, how rare is that? The last time that happened, Lou Gehrig did it in 1928. Look, the Dodgers are by far the better team. They have more offensive firepower, especially with Judge struggling. But I will also say this. If the Yanks win tonight and they all have to get on a plane to go back to LA, and New York has won back-to-back games, is there a seed of doubt planted in LA, especially with all their playoff failures of the past? I just wonder about tonight. And Garrett Cole gets the ball in the Bronx. It's going to be fun.
And the ratings are just going to skyrocket. But tell me this, we'll go a little over. I didn't realize the hate out there for the Dodgers. Is that not new? Because to me, the Dodgers is Royal Blue, Tommy Lasorda, Vin Scully, Kurt Gibson, Rick Koufax. People hate them.
I think what people dislike is the fact that by far the 2 highest spending teams in baseball are in the World Series. Everybody likes the underdog story. Everybody likes the little train that could. I mean, you're talking like the Dodgers are the epitome of a super team. How many MVPs, Cy Youngs are on that roster right now? But I'll say this. Win and Dave Roberts, all the noise on Roberts goes away, which is amazing because they were staring down the barrel in the divisional series against San Diego, and he could have been out. And the other is, I think Betts is a Hall of Famer. Kershaw is definitely a Hall of Famer. Ohtani's on his way to Cooperstown. And now Freeman may very well cement himself there. This is a series that has Hall of Fame talent everywhere. We're watching greatness versus greatness. I just think the ones you may not hate as much as the ones in the pinstripes are going to end up winning this thing.
Fun to watch for sure. Fun to talk to you as always, my man. Let's do it again soon.
All right, Roddy. Anytime, bud.